In keeping with my passion of telling great stories, today I'm going to tell you a story about an unforgettable visit someone had from President Lincoln. And let me tell you where I got that story. I have told you stories from this book before. These are stories compiled by Mariah Vance. She was President Lincoln's housekeeper slash nanny, really slash friend for several years before he was elected president of the United States. And there was a local woman who was a secretary, and she thought Mariah's stories were so fascinating, she actually hand wrote them. In recent years, someone has found all of these handwritten letters, you see, like this, and they turned them into a book like this. But exact copy of everything that's in the front of the book is a copy of these handwritten letters. I found this by accident when I was in a bookstore doing some research for our recent film that has come out called Red Storm Rising. So I now want to tell you one of the stories that's in this book. I think it actually makes me cry. It's so good. So this, as I said, is a story from his former housekeeper slash nanny, but I can tell you from the stories I've read in here, they were actually friends. President Lincoln's children referred to her as Aunt Mariah. Now, for reference in this story, her husband's name was Henry and her son's name was Billy. And this is her story. Now, I'm going to tell you this story. It was transcribed word for word how Mariah spoke. So some of the English and grammar and things was the way they spoke back then. But you'll be able to follow along. We left Springfield shortly after Mr. Abe was elected president in November 1860. You see, the whole country was in a mess. President Buchanan, because he was going out of office, and of course lots in Washington under him, was for slavery. He just sat there and never tried to stop that war, what was brewing. So the colored folks was near scared out of their hide, and most moved farther north, as we planned before. Mr. Abe and Master Robert, now remember Robert was Abraham Lincoln's son, had come to Danville about Christmas time in 1860. They stopped at the Eaton House, if I rightly remember, for some meeting with some big men in politics and some of their friends. One was Dr. Fithian, I remembered. About noon on that day, a messenger boy bring a note to our house. I tell you, I was sure my Henry had been killed or hurt in the mine, but the telegram was from Mr. Abe. It say on a slip of hotel paper he was sent by the messenger. Quote, I am at this hotel for a short time today. Robert is with me. I would like for you and Billy to come here between the hours of 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. We will be very disappointed if you don't come. Give messenger your answer. With esteem, A. Lincoln and Robert. Well, Billy had come in for dinner, and work or starve, nothing, not a soul on this earth could have kept me and my Billy away from going to see Master Robert. When we moved here, Master Robert was in some school in the East, so Billy have to come away without a sight of the blessed Master Robert. We dressed in our best clothes. I combed the braids out of my head and made my hair neat as if it had beeswax on it. Billy slicked up too. Right at 3 o'clock sharp, we reached the steps up to the door of that hotel. Mr. Abe and Master Robert almost ran down the steps to meet us. I thought Master Robert and Billy was going to kiss. Those two Lincolns was pure pleasure to see us again, just smiling and laughing and shaking hands like no one was on this earth but the Vances. Just like no white folks was around, they were gaping at us like they had never seen us before. Right there and then, I know president or no president, nothing would ever change Mr. Abe and Master Robert. They would never on this earth get the swell head. If being president wouldn't cause it, nothing would. Well, Master Robert put his dear arm around Billy's shoulder and said, we're going to the lobby and visit. We would have come to your house, but Pa has such a short time to get his business settled here and see those he must see. Pa thought it best to give you the time it would take going to and from for your house. Mr. Abe took me by the arm like I was the Queen of Sheba and helped me up those steps. Everyone in the hotel lobby gaped. So Mr. Abe took me to each man and a few women there, seated in a kind of circle, and introduced me as a very fine colored lady who had lived in the Lincoln home for 2 years. I noticed he didn't say servant or washwoman. Then Master Robert stand up and say, and this is my best friend, Billy Vance. Mr. Abe asked about my Henry and each one of my young'uns. Said he'd just love to see them all, but didn't have time to do so. I asked him about Willie, Taddy, and the missus. He say Willie and Taddy coaxed to come along, but Mother, who's the busiest woman in this side of Washington, couldn't manage to get them ready. and I suspect she needed them for company. Several men come up and shook hands with Mr. Abe, congratulated him. He only say a few words to each till he got through visiting with us. The men thought he was there in Danville to come see them. Some of them gone out and come back in like they were anxious for Mr. Abe to be with them. But Mr. Abe was always a poke easy. He told those men to stay right there. He'd be with them shortly. Then he say to Billy, I have only one desire before I go back to Springfield, and that is to hear you sing again. Then he say to the man behind the desk, would you mind if Billy is willing to sing for us? According to my opinion, Billy has one of the most beautiful voices God ever gave to anyone. Billy was never scared to sing. He got out of that chair in a shake, but Billy was always quick about everything. He didn't wait to hear what Mr. Abe wanted to hear. He just popped up and sang a new song he learned since coming to Danville. That was the Mockingbird song. And he whistled it too, like the bird, all through that song when he wasn't singing the words. You could have heard a pin drop, as they say. All those folks just couldn't believe it. They were spellbound. Then he know Mr. Abe liked the song, I'm on my road to glory now. Before they quit clapping for the Mockingbird, he starts singing, oh, on that man's road, making all the gestures that he learned in church. When he was done, he quick as a dart sang another song Mr. Abe loved. It was a church song. I just can't remember the name, but they all clapped, some laughed, some cry. Mr. Abe and Master Robert too. Mr. Abe hold up his hand, wipe his eyes, and say, kind of perking up, am I not right when I say Billy has the most beautiful God-given voice, and I know Billy will use it to glorify God and set all he meets on the road to glory? Now, maybe we're all on our road to glory now. God grant this scourge will pass away. He obviously meant slavery and succession. From that on, Billy was called to sing most anywhere. Mr. Abe gave Billy some money. I don't remember how much. He gave me a basket of fruit and a bag of candy. And from his grip, what he opened, he have toys and presents for all my children. He and Mr. Robert shook our hands, even held our hands, and both of them and we cried. I just couldn't help, because I know deep down Mr. Abe was going out into this wicked country to be crucified as Christ was for the colored folks to be free. After that meeting, from that on, I have all the work from the rich and fine folks I could do. That was the very last time I saw Mr. Abe. I don't know about you, but that story touches me greatly, and it just confirms to me why President Lincoln is my favorite American historical figure. I've studied a lot about him because I've just admired him so much. I mean, he was president at the most difficult time in our history. And he grew up in church, and he grew up with Christian parents, and he was always against slavery. But when he went to the White House, his goal was to keep the Union together no matter what. And if it meant keeping slavery in the South, I know he considered that. But in the North, he knew it would go. The most important thing to him was that the country not get torn apart. But I will tell you, this I have learned. President Lincoln's journey to free the slaves was as much a spiritual decision as anything else. After his beloved Willie died, as many people do in a time of heartache, he grabbed a hold of the Lord to get through this. And I think, I see President Trump today really struggling with what to do. And when I see that, I saw President Trump recently during the military parade. People say he looked sad. He looked to me like he was praying in a deep thought. And it reminded me of Abraham Lincoln. I thought Abraham Lincoln must have been like that as well. A lot of sleepless nights. And what do I do? And God, please save the country and keep the Union together. And what am I supposed to do? And he prayed a lot over, do you want the slaves free or not? Because remember, he had people on both sides. He had some saying, God is on our side to free the slaves. Others say, God is on our side to keep slavery. And Lincoln said to these people, well, I'm the president. It seems to me like if God is going to speak to anybody, he would speak to me. So he kept asking the Lord, please, God, please tell me what you want me to do. And he was, I think, probably getting kind of frustrated because he couldn't hear the Lord. So Abraham Lincoln put out a fleece before the Lord. And he said, Lord, if you want me to free the slaves, then the North will win the Battle of Antietam. And if we lose, then I will take that to mean we should allow slavery in the South. Well, the odds were against the North winning. As you know, they had not been doing well, and it was looking bleak. But God intervened, and God made his will known because, of course, the North did win the Battle of Antietam. President Lincoln then told his cabinet he was going to announce the Emancipation Proclamation. And they advised him, they said, look, Mr. President, we are all for this. We want you to do this, but we need you to wait because we're afraid if you go ahead and announce this, the French will get into the war and will fight against us and then we'll lose. And President Lincoln, being a man who knew God and loved God, said, I can't. I made a vow, a covenant to the Almighty, and I have to keep my word to him. So when people say God hasn't been involved in the history of the United States, I'm telling you, God has been hand in hand with the leaders of our country throughout our 250 years. This is a nation formed under God. We've made a vow, a covenant with God when we were formed, and this was a president in 1860 who wanted to live by that covenant. So he went ahead, and on January 1st, 1863, he announced the Emancipation Proclamation. And you knew what happened after that. And you know, Abraham Lincoln, during his time in office, there were several times he called for National Day of Prayer and Fasting. Well, I guess it worked because you know what happened. And I would like to say that today, we all know what's going on in the Middle East. And we have brave men and women that are ready to defend us and go into battle at a moment's notice. And I will tell you, I believe that it is our responsibility as the church. It is our responsibility to go into battle as well. And our battle is done in the heavenly realm. I had an encounter one time with the Lord, and I was in the middle of worshiping and praying, and I began to hear all of these, oh man, it was violent noises. It sounded like war, and swords, and fighting, and battling, and yelling. And I was like, Lord, what is this? What is this noise? And what God said to me was, you think what happens on the earth affects what happens in the spiritual realm, but you have it all wrong. It's what happens in the spiritual realm affects what happens in the earthly realm. What he was telling me was the battle is fought in prayer. And I don't know why God made this the way he did, but he wants to partner with human beings. And he has given this power to pray and affect change. I don't know why it's this way. He's the creator of the universe. And in his, I guess, just his need to love us and partner with us and be friends with us and walk with us, he has given us this awesome privilege. So I'm telling you, it is our job. It's our job to fight with our leaders to bring peace to this earth, and that is through our prayers. So I want to encourage you to pray every day for the safety of our military. Pray for wisdom and guidance for our president and the Secretary of Defense and all of the other people, and for Netanyahu and all these leaders. Even pray for the leaders of Iran. You know, we must pray for God to invade all over the earth. I'm often led to pray the Lord's Prayer when I'm praying, just because I feel in all of my life, I feel more than ever, this is the time for the Lord's Prayer. If you enjoyed this podcast today, I'm posting a link below where you can hear a 4-minute story about Abraham Lincoln's secret baptism. That's another awesome story. If you're watching on YouTube, it's linked right here.